ibambeni webafana, ibambeni wesiyoyoyo, ibambeni webafana, ibambeni wesiyoyoyo, disiba salabafana, zilikumuza Oliver Tambo, salabafana, zilikumuza Oliver Tambo. Comrades, we just want to check our regions. We've invited officials from all the regions, Namakwa, 3, ZFM, Comrade Kazi, where's your officials? Your top 5, top 6. It means there's a problem. JTG, all right, comrades of JTG, Francis Bart, you are solid. All right, Pixley, where's the comrades of Pixley? Leadership of Pixley. I know there's a directive that the secretaries of Pixley in Namakwa should remain in the regions because they have by-elections. But I don't see the rest of the officials from Pixley. The Veterans League. Yeah, Veterans League is here. Youth League. 2, 3, 4. All right. Women's League. All right. All right. Don't worry about the number, Ma, for now. Yeah. All right. PEC. Aye. All right. Thank you. All right. No, thanks, comrades. At least we are here. Yeah, so this is the comrades that we've invited, and other comrades, all comrades, at least are welcome to this political school. Comrades, we are about to start in the next 3 to 4 minutes. We was just trying to fill all the seats so that when the former Deputy President enters, all the seats are filled, but I think other comrades will join us halfway. And the approach will basically be after the address of the former Deputy President, we'll allow tables to make some reflections and ask clarity questions, and we'll open for discussions. So it's an interactive program that we have. It's a political school. It's an interactive program that we have as the PEC. So we push, maybe by 3 we'll be out here for the latest, by 3. So, comrades, can we sing our last a vibrant revolutionary song? A vibrant one, comrades. I can't call in the Deputy President and then we are singing a vibrant one, comrades. Topsy. Yeah, can we all rise, comrades? When the Deputy President enters, we want all to rise for the entourage. Bizandaza, Oliver Tambuba. Bizandaza, Oliver Tambuba. Bizandaza. Bizanda. Yunus, top, the mic, top, the mic, top. Oliver Tambuba, Bizandaza, Oliver Tambuba, Bizandaza. Bizandaza, Holy Vatambuba, Bizandaza, 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 Holy Vatambuba, Bizandaza, Holy Vatambuba, Bizandaza, 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 Holy Vatambuba, Bizandaza, Holy Vatambuba, Bizandaza, 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 Holy Vatambuba, Bizandaza, Bizandaza, Bizandaza.
I think my presentation will be the purpose
Bizandaza, Bizandaza, Holy Vatambuba, Bizandaza, 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 Holy Vatambuba. Amantla, Amantla, away too. Thank you very much, comrades. I think we can start with our political school. Let me request Comrade Makibi just to open our political school with a prayer. Makibi. No, she requested me, Chair, to pray. Yeah.
ka lebitso la Ntate la morale la moya o halalelang. Amen. Morena le modimo wa rona, Ntate wa morena wa rona Jesu Kriste, o Ntate wa rona mme rona re bana ba hao, re atamela bonamelong ba maoto a hao, re o leboha Ntate Jehova Kriste ka mpho ya letsatsi la kajeno Ntate Senatla sa Modimo. o re disitse ha re ne re robetse, mme o tsoile le rona re a o leboha. Ha o tsamaile le baetapele ba rona ba tla fihla kwano, ba ntse ba bolokehile ka tlasa mohau le lereko la hao. Ka hona ntate ya mosale matla ohle motsotsong ona, ha re kopane senatla sa mahodimo, o tla tsohla tsohle tse ka re isang pele ntate Jehova Kriste, le hore na re tswa kae ebile re lebile kae. E ba le rona ntate, o re fe dikelello tse tjhatsi, o re fe le dipelo tse futhumetseng, o ka ntshetsa setjhaba sa rona pele. Fihla ntate hohle mo re sa fihlang, ka Kriste morena wa rona, amen.
Thank you very much, Comrade Makibi. Comrades, let me take this opportunity to welcome our former Deputy President, Comrade Kgalema Motlanthe, and let me also welcome our NEC deployees and the convener of the NEC, the Provincial Chair, and the entire PEC collective. And let me also welcome the leadership of the Women's League, the Youth League, and the Veterans League, and all our comrades who are present. Welcome to our Jack Simons Political School. I think as a PEC, we've agreed that we should convene this political school, and the best person to invite to this political school is Comrade Kgalema, because as this organization, we are facing some challenges, and we need to reflect also to build a stronger organization. But as we renew our organization in preparation for our local government elections that will take place next year. So this political school is to reflect, to strategize, and also as a province to come with a position, because we are approaching our PGC, we are approaching our NGC, and we should give leadership at these forums. Comrades, let me request the Provincial Secretary to give us the apologies, who's absent and who's on their way, so that we have idea. Over to you, Sec.
Viva ANC, viva. Viva ANC, viva. Amandla. Amandla. Thank you very much, Program Director, Comrade Provincial Deputy Chair, Comrade Bentley first. Greetings to Comrade the Deputy President of the ANC, or should I say former Deputy President. This nowadays say if you... He looks like former... it's former president, Deputy President, and former President of our country, Comrade Kgalema Motlanthe, and our NEC deployee and convener, Comrade Lindin Chalinchali. Greetings to the Provincial Chair, entire officials present, PEC of the ANC, the leagues, and all structures were invited. No, MK is also here. You are recognized. So then, this is the special PEC, I think I must emphasize. It's a special PEC, comrades, called for a particular purpose. And the purpose is the lecture. And so we got apologies, not a lot of apologies. Comrades came out in their numbers today because they were intrigued when they heard that the former Deputy President will address us. So we got 4 apologies. Comrade Vuyani Mhlauli will join us a bit late. And then Comrade Alfred Titis is writing exams, so he's unable to attend. Comrade Rachel Adams, due to work commitments, she's unable to attend. And then Comrade Lebogang Motlaping is unable to attend due to ill health. Thank you very much, Comrade Deputy.
Thanks, Comrade Sec. Comrades, that's the apologies. Can we note the apologies? It's written apologies. We are in agreement. Thank you very much. Comrades, we have a program in terms of our political school. We dealt with the welcoming and attendance. Then it will be the purpose of ideological work by the Provincial Chairperson, Comrade Zamani Saul. And then we'll have the presentation the Alliance at Crossroads, and where we come from. And our former Deputy President will do the presentation and lead us in the discussions. And then we'll break for lunch after that, and after lunch we'll come back, have handing over of gifts, and there will be a photo shoot as well as departure. So that's our program for today. So can I call the Provincial Chair to come and take us through in terms of the purpose of it?
Amandla. Amandla. Forward to the Revolutionary Tripartite Alliance. Forward. Amandla. Thank you very much, Comrade Bentas, for according me this opportunity. Let me also greet all the PEC members. And in that greeting, including the PEC officials, Comrade Bentley, Deshi, Marups, and Comrade Fufe. And fortunately, we've got an NEC member today, Comrade Lindiwe Jalinjali. We know is one of the NEC members who always ensures that she attends our event. Kulua, we've got an activist group of NEC members. When we've got by-elections, they are in the dusty streets of the Northern Cape, putting up battles and fights with us to rescue the African National Congress. And Kulua, thank you very much for making time to come and share your ideas on a very interesting topic, which have been beautifully arranged by the Office of the Secretariat, the Alliance at the Crossroads. Just the manner in which they've crafted it, the Alliance at the Crossroads, where we come from and where we are headed, So to come and share your perspectives and views about what you think. And I think I need to mention that this is an informal engagement. It's not really a formal engagement. Nobody is going to get a certificate out of this. We are just here to informally share views and perspectives to enable us to get a better understanding of the contemporary challenges which are confronted by the broader alliance movement. So we decided in the officials meeting, which was endorsed by the PwC and the PEC, that we must invite you. Because in each and every PEC meeting, the issue of the challenges which the alliance is confronted with is raised. There's not even a single PEC meeting, single PwC meeting, where this matter was not raised. And sometimes it gets raised in a very combative and emotional way. But I can still remember in one NEC meeting, one NEC member said, these SACP members who are here, who are ANC members, who are cabinet ministers, they must bring back our cars. They must bring back our cars. So the provincial secretary had to stand up in the NEC and correct that. He said, no, that's not a way of engagement. And how the issue of the dual membership works is also diffusional. You don't know who's pure ANC and who's pure SACP. That thing does not exist, that I'm pure ANC, I'm pure SACP. Yeah, because most of us encountered the SACP whilst we were involved in the broader liberation movement. Then you get an encounter with the party, get recruited to come and join the party. So this makes this matter a very interesting topic. I was telling Mkhulwa that that I had an opportunity to be inducted by him 6 times. Yes, I told him maybe that could be record-breaking. If you write another book, please include it there. That there's this guy from the Northern Cape I inducted 6 times. So he inducted me in 1999 after the 1998 conference. Just 2 years, after 2 years after he was elected as the Secretary General, and it was in 2003 again, and 2006. So when he inducted the PEC, he used to take it as his personal responsibility to induct PECs. When a PEC must be inducted, Umkhulu would make time and come and induct the PEC himself as the Secretary General. So after the 2012 National Conference in Mangaung, the NEC, which was elected, he inducted in 2013. He got invited to come and induct the NEC. 2013 he inducted the NEC, and after the 2017 National Conference, 2018 he inducted it. And with the last National Conference, when was it, 2022, 2023 inducted the NEC. So 3 times as an ex officio member. So I hope that should be record-breaking. But a very interesting thing which I thought I'm going to raise, Umkhulu. When we went to the 2012 National Conference in Mangaung, so myself and John took the trouble to go and talk to him. I hope you can remember that. I don't think you can, because we are from a small province. People normally forget our our initiative. Northern Cape, who are those guys? It's fine. And then we asked him to stand as not to contest as the president, to contest as the deputy president. Said, no, branches have nominated me, and I'm going to contest. But he said, I don't do that, you know. And then he left us with quite an intriguing response. He said, maybe years to come, you would know why I decided to contest. I hope you can remember that, Umkhulu. He said, years to come, you guys, you would know why I decided to contest. And I don't know whether we know now. I don't know. So I don't know whether we know now, but that's what he said. Branches have nominated me, and I'm going to contest because that's what they feel. And yes, I understand what you are saying, but years to come, you guys will have a better understanding why I decided to do what I'm doing. But as I met comrades this morning, I saw many of them were carrying ladders. The first one to come to me with showing me that he's carrying a ladder is Comrade Eunice, and other comrades as they were arriving, I could see many of them are carrying ladders into this engagement. And I asked Comrade Eunice, you are carrying a ladder into this engagement? She says, yeah, I do. Because I want to take the engagement to a higher level. You want to take it to a higher level, Comrade you? Okay. All right. So DP, we established the Jack Simons Political School in 2013. I hope comrades can remember when we established it in 2013, and there's many comrades who've been invited to the province to come and make presentations. Sistenji them were here, Comrade Nati, Comrade Nale, and there's quite a list of them. We invited to come and make presentations to our political school. And the reason why we decided to establish a political school, it was responding to the call by the 2012 National Conference that we should dedicate 10 years to cater development. We had a period of 2012 to 2022, which was a decade of a cadre. So we decided basically to establish the political school for that purpose. And I'm certain many of the comrades who are here, they know who Jack Simons is. And every time when we've got such classes, we take the liberty of distributing the book on the life of Comrade Jack, and as well as many of his lectures in Nova Katongo are included there in that book. But very interestingly today, the person that we have here has written the foreword in the book. If comrades, you can check the foreword in the book. It's written by Comrade Kgalema. And in the foreword, Comrade Kgalema identifies 4 important issues around ideological work, which I want to highlight here. He actually raised the fact that political education contributes to the political primacy of the politics of the movement. And then he identified 4 distinct areas of work. If I'm not mistaken, it could be paragraph 3. He says, ideological work helps to develop the capacity to manage ideological struggle within the ranks of the movement. That's the first role of ideological work within the movement. And number 2, he says, to develop theoretical clarity on the national democratic revolution, to ensure unity in action of all motive forces involved in the struggle. So that's the second reason why we are here, to develop theoretical clarity on the national democratic revolution, which is our minimum program of transforming this country. And he highlights the third. He says is to enable us to approach the country's problems with a view to find sustainable and lasting solutions. So in order for us to be able to be effective in our response, we need theoretical clarity, better understanding of the challenges that are confronting our people, to find the sustainable and lasting solutions. And the fourth that he identifies is to identify and seize decisive moments. And I just want to add there, not only decisive moments, but strategic moments. How do we, as the movement, seize? How do we identify decisive and strategic moments? Because as a revolutionary movement, we should have that capacity to do that. We identify and create moments which are very strategic in the life of the movement. But also, comrades, as I'm tasked just to reflect on the importance of ideological work, I also want to raise something that all of us are quite aware of, is the fact that the movement is confronted with enormous challenges to lead the process of social transformation. And the reason why these enormous challenges of social transformation confronts us as the ANC is because we are the midwife of the process of social transformation. We are the midwife. We are the ones who are in the theater, confronted with a country that's pregnant with opportunities. And we are the midwife to give birth, to assist the process of giving birth to this new baby through a process, what we would characterize as social transformation. And in order for us to do that, there is a need that we should be grounded in the theory of struggle. When we say we need to be grounded in the theory of struggle, it's not for purposes of revolutionary phrase mongering, going around and bragging about what you know. It's not for that purpose, but it's for three specific reasons. And number one is to sharpen our response to the daily challenges confronted by the people. That's the reason why we are here, engaging in ideological work to sharpen our response. And Comrade Kgalema was just informing us now that if you go to China, there's compulsory sessions for such work. Compulsory sessions. Those who are in China, you would be told when you arrive there, at the party school there in China, that the president, Xi, would put aside everything that he does and go to a party school and even sleep there at the barracks of the party school. And then they've got what they call as refresher courses, just to refresh the president. Refresher courses. Go and stay in the barracks with other delegates who are attending, to be taken through what the Chinese Communist Party is and what it stands for. What kind of conduct is expected from members and leaders of the Chinese Communist Party. Xi goes there. Put aside everything. There's no government work, sits in classes and gets subjected to practical organizational work. So, and they do that in order to ensure that they sharpen the capabilities of party cadres to respond to daily challenges which are confronting the people. And number two, ideological work, comrades, assist us not to fall in one of the three pitholes which have been identified by Amilcar Cabral, of tailism, adventurism, and populism. And you've got the modern day voluntarism. Because what Amilcar Cabral says is that a revolutionary party must avoid to fall in one of the three pitholes. And one of those pitholes is tailism, where you fail to lead when you're supposed to be giving leadership. Isn't it to say we're a leader of society? And if there are concerns in the community, ANC cadres should be seen leading in addressing those concerns. And adventurism, that's the second pitfall. Risky behavior, miscalculated behavior, exposing the organization to serious risks. That's the reason we are gathered here, to ensure that whatever we do as we live here, we don't become adventurous, where we expose the organization to major risks. And populism. We discussed some incidences of populism now when we met with the Deputy President. One minister I won't mention. You provide solutions to problems that you know are not implementable. You say things that you know you are not going to do. Because as soon as we say something, people believe us that we are going to do those things. And if we don't do those things, then it becomes a problem. And the third one, comrades, that ideological work assists us is the fact that how we characterize ourselves. We say we're a disciplined force of the left, an anti-imperialist movement, and that we're a revolutionary movement. That is the reason why we fight at all times to carry this label of being a liberation movement. There's certain attributes then that you expect from a revolutionary movement. I'm sure it's Lenin who says there's no revolutionary organization without a revolutionary theory. It's Lenin. Yeah. So that's how we characterize ourselves, the revolutionary movement. So a revolutionary movement needs to have strategic consistency in what we do. If there's not adequate ideological work that is done, we are not pumping enough in that front, throwing enough punches with regard to ideological work, strategically we become inconsistent. And people end up not knowing what this organization is all about. And nowadays we are sitting with a major problem of mischaracterization of the ANC. Everybody just says the ANC is what they think it is. And that could be as a result of lack of strategic consistency in how we conduct ourselves and how we articulate ourselves. So strategic consistency refers to the alignment and coherence of an organization's actions, decisions, and policies with its overall mission, vision, and goals. It's ensuring that everything that the organization does supports its long-term objectives, what we call as our historical mission, and reinforces its identity. And that basically, that's what discriminates us from other parties, that makes us different because of strategic consistency. This is what we stand for. We've got strategic objectives of building a non-racial, democratic, non-sexist, prosperous South Africa. But what does that mean? What does those strategic goals mean in terms of our overall objective and our historical mission? So political education helps us then to consolidate strategic consistency in how we do our work, but also it assists us with analytical alertness, what we call as revolutionary vigilance. As leaders of the movement, we should be vigilant. We should be able to detect challenges and risks that the organization and society confronts. So this is about the capacity to do a concrete analysis of the concrete situation. We make a concrete analysis of the concrete situation that we are confronted with. And it assists us to be more proactive in how we do our work. We are not crisis-orientated. There's a crisis here, there's a crisis there, there's a crisis. We've got capacity to detect these things in advance, that if there is such a conduct, it will lead to this. And we come up with ways of mitigating that, and that's analytical alertness. But what is important with how we embark on this process, our process in the movement and how we've been brought up is an inductive process. It's not deductive. We don't start from the principle. Our starting point is not theory. That's not our starting point. Our starting point is reality, the real conditions and circumstances which our people are confronted with. That's our starting point. And then the next question is, how do we infuse our theory onto these challenges? And the next question is, what should be done? That defines the practice. So the process is inductive. Our analytical alertness, the process is inductive. It gets informed by the concrete realities on the ground. The next question is, how do we infuse our theory of struggle into those concrete realities? And the next question then becomes the kind of action that we should embark on, which is practice guided by theory. So this is the revolutionary praxis that informs our conduct. It's revolutionary theory plus revolutionary practice. That's what informs our conduct. If you look before 1994, the real concrete problem was settler colonialism. How do we enrich our understanding of settler colonialism through our own theory of the National Democratic Revolution? And what kind of practice should come out of there? What should be expected of us to do out of there? So also, very much important, comrades, for these engagements is, which is, we call ideological work, is tactical flexibility in our work. This is an ability to adapt and adjust plans, strategies, or approaches in response to changing circumstances or new environment. So when we engage on ideological work, there's no dogmatism, which is one extreme. The other extreme of dogmatism is revisionism. None of these extremes. But we engage with theory in a pragmatic way that will assist us to resolve the questions that we are confronted with. And if you go to China, the Chinese will tell you of socialism with Chinese characteristics, which is a pragmatic response of building socialism in China based on the concrete realities of China. Because then China was not an industrialized European country. So they have to ask themselves, without a strong working class base, but then they have to ask themselves, what does socialism mean for us, based on these conditions of a large pool of peasantry. So they spoke of socialism with Chinese characteristics. They are not saying any other socialism is right or is wrong. They talk about their own socialism. So, comrades, also, what is very much important as we engage in this work is that ideological work is also about building unity within our ranks. Because unity is a product and function of ideological clarity. Our understanding of unity in the movement is dialectic. When we speak of unity, we don't say there's no differences amongst ourselves. We don't say there are no contradictions. Since the inception of the ANC in 2012, there's never been a stage in the existence of this organization where there were no contradictions. None. 100 and how many years now? 113. It's 113. Yeah, there's never been a stage in the existence of the history of the ANC from 1912 where there were no contradictions. But the understanding of contradictions is dialectic. And the understanding of unity is dialectic, because this is a product of ideological clarity. But what builds unity within our ranks is the management of those contradictions. Since the inception of the ANC in 1912, leadership have distinguished themselves with management of contradictions. And if contradictions are not managed, they've got a tendency of mutating into factions. And those factions have got a potential of colonizing elected structures. So when we do such ideological work, key to it, it's how are we going to defend and build unity within our ranks. Not fake unity, but organic unity, which is as a result of us observing organizational processes. That's the kind of unity we are talking about. Unity which is as a result of ideological clarity and nothing else. So also, if we manage to do that, we'll save the organization from degeneration. At the heart of all the problems that we are sitting with is ideological degeneration. So Mkhulwa, we invited you to come and assist us in this difficult journey of ensuring that we build leadership in the Northern Cape. Not under easy conditions, but under difficult conditions, sometimes not out of our own choosing. And so we've invited you to come and assist us, and with a specific reflection on the alliance and where are we going to. And if there's a potential disaster, how to mitigate the impact thereof in order to rescue our pristine revolutionary alliance. Comrade Chair, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade Provincial Chair. Comrades, we are going to request Comrade Kgalema to come and address us. So let me give over to Comrade Kgalema. Can we all rise and give Comrade Kgalema a nice... We can even welcome Comrade Kgalema with the revolutionary song, comrades.
Amandla, Mata. Let me greet the leadership. I had breakfast with them, but Madume Rafeli. And morning, comrades. I've been asked to come and speak to you about the alliance at the Crossroads, where we come from and where we are headed. Now, in preparing for this topic, I thought that we must dig into history, because history is important in the sense that it gives us context, because this alliance evolved over time. And so one of the first lessons we learn from political education is about the law of motion, that nothing is but always in a state of becoming. Nothing is but always in a state of becoming. That's the law of motion in essence. And the law of motion applies with equal force in nature as well as in society. If we grasp that law of motion, many complex problems would become easy to comprehend. Because oftentimes people believe that there is permanency. And the law of motion teaches us that the only thing that is permanent and constant is change itself. Nothing else is permanent. And if we take this law of motion to heart, we would then understand that if you are elected into a position of responsibility, that is not permanent. You will understand that there are people who served in that capacity before you, and there will be people who will serve in that capacity after you. So the law of motion helps us to be rational, to understand issues, because it's about process. It's about process. Just last month, there was an election in Cameroon. President Biya got into his 8th term. He's been president for 8 terms. He's 92 years old. He spends 6 months in France, 6 months in Cameroon, in each year. So literally, he visits Cameroon for 6 months and then goes back to France. Yeah. But he's a president and felt the urge to avail himself to serve for the 8th time. His own daughter, in the week leading up to the elections, his own daughter said, please, Cameroonians, elect somebody else. My father has caused many problems. His own daughter said so. Yeah. So I'm saying this because whereas on the one side, President Biya celebrates a birthday each year, and so that's motion. But he believes that the seat of presidency is permanent for him, which reflects a misunderstanding of the law of motion. So I thought that I should indicate this because, as Comrade Zamani indicated, that the African National Congress is now 113 years old. And one of the reasons why it has lived so long is because from the word go, it understood that policy is adopted in the form of resolutions at conference. And so it does not take any catechism of any religious denomination and makes it ANC policy. It's not ANC policy. It can't be ANC policy. That's why the ANC has been able to become the political home to all and sundry, the broadest cross-section of South African population. At one time or the other in their lives, deemed it fit to belong to the African National Congress and felt at home, because your practices, your beliefs, and all of that cannot be ANC policy. The ANC does not adopt them as policy. Policy is debated and adopted in the form of conference resolutions. And so the ANC has had, in its 113 years, ups and downs, ebbs and flows, and has always been able to draw lessons from each one of those phases. As you know that Pixley Kaisa Kaseme is credited for having made the call for the formation of the African National Congress. There were African National Congresses in the provinces. We had 4 provinces prior to 1912. And that is why in 1909, a national convention was convened. And so when we say the ANC was born on the 8th of January in 1912, we actually mean that the ANCs united on that date to form a national body. That's what we mean, because they existed. There was an ANC in the Cape, there was an ANC in the Free State, there was an ANC in the Transvaal, there was an ANC in Natal. But the law of motion, as things evolved and developed, the Union of South Africa came into being. The call had to be made that these ANCs must now become one national. And that is why the president of the ANC nationally was referred to as President General. The secretary nationally was referred to as the Secretary General. The treasurer the same, to distinguish them from the provincial presidents, secretaries, and treasurers. That's why many organizations have general secretaries, but the ANC has a secretary general. Yeah. Of course, now we no longer refer to President General because there are no provincial presidents. Well, we must appreciate that things evolve. The law of motion applies to the ANC as well. In terms of its thinking, in terms of policies, they are always informed by the concrete reality within which the ANC finds itself. And that is why there was a comrade in Natal, Comrade Kenny Ndlovu, who could give you the history of the ANC in song. That when the call was made in 1912, this is the song that was sung. And each era, there's a song that was composed which reflects that era. So he could give you the whole history of the ANC in song. A medley of songs. Yeah. So anyway, given our topic, comrades, the component organizations of interest here are the ANC itself, the Communist Party, the Trade Union Federation, and the civic organization. Those are the component organizations of interest. But in the 50s already, when following a campaign of defiance of unjust laws, So the ANC identified 6 laws that they were going to defy. Discriminatory laws. And they called for volunteers. So they mobilized and organized and trained 8,000 volunteers. The volunteers had to be trained to understand that the defiance of unjust laws campaign is a political campaign. And in defying, so there were entrances for white people, entrances for black people. Sometimes not entrances, sometimes a window at the back. Yeah. So if it's a shop or a coffee shop, you couldn't walk in and buy coffee inside. You buy your coffee from the window at the back. So this act of defiance, the volunteers had to be trained to understand that they are embarking on a political campaign. And why the training was important is precisely because if you defy a law and there are law enforcers who are trained to deal with law breakers, because they are law enforcers, when they deal with you as someone who crosses the line, they are not friendly. Never mind what they say in court now when they present you. In a court of law, they would say, no, we introduced ourselves, we greeted the person, we spelled out his rights, and then so on. In real life, it doesn't happen that way. You see, so it was important for the volunteers to understand that as they break the law enforcers will deal with them forcefully. And that if they resist forcefully as well, they respond forcefully, they will be arrested for something else, not for breaking the law. You understand, right? Yeah. So it was important for them to understand that they don't resist, they accept to be arrested, so that the charge says they defied a law, because it's a political campaign. And then, of course, it was these volunteers who, once they were arrested and charged, in the history of the ANC, you would know that it included the then President General of the ANC at the time. So he's arrested. And then, of course, when he accepted this position of leadership, he did not factor in the fact that somewhere he may be arrested. And he decided that, no, these people, I must separate myself from them. So there's a team of lawyers who represent the volunteers. And he decides, no, he must have his own lawyer, separate from the rest. And of course, that led to change of leadership in the very next conference. I will not go into details, comrades, but that's what practically happened. Then, of course, Professor Z.K. Matthews, in his address to the Provincial Conference of the Cape, suggested that it is time we speak of freedom, we struggle for freedom, but precisely what do we mean by freedom? So each one has his own understanding of freedom. So some people say, no, you know, if this superintendent who is so cruel can be removed, we would be free. And others reduce it to a local station commander. So people had their own different ideas as to the meaning of freedom. And so the same volunteers who were trained for the Defiance of Unjust Laws campaign were then roped in to fan across the length and breadth of the country and ask South Africans, what is your aspiration of freedom? What do you expect in a free South Africa? And people gave answers, and these volunteers recorded them in thousands of pieces of paper, and they were then presented. So, firstly, these papers had to be collated, you know, along subjects. This one raises issues of education, we put it there, and so on. This one raises issues of housing and security, you put it there. This one raises issues of neighborliness, you put it there. This one raises the issue of economy and employment. This one raises issues of law. And so these pieces of papers were then collated along the headings. And then, because this was a campaign as well, it was called the Congress of the People Campaign. So when people go out, these volunteers, it's a campaign. It's not just a desktop, research. People had to be spoken to, and they gave feedback, and their feedback were recorded. So the sponsoring organizations were four at the time: the African National Congress, South African Indian Congress, the South African Colored People's Organization, as well as the Congress of Democrats. And so the conference in Tongaat established a committee, a coordinating committee for the Congress of the People, which was made up of 8 people. It was chaired by Chief Albert Lutuli, and in the secretariat, it included Walter Sisulu, who was immediately banned and replaced by Oliver Tambo. And from the Indian Congress, it was Yusuf Kachalia. And from the Congress of Democrats, it was Lionel Bernstein, who was later, those days following the ascension of the Nationalist Party to government in 1948. So the first law they passed was Suppression of Communism Act. And with that, they placed people, leaders, under restrictions. Some they placed under house arrest. Others, they are restricted to certain districts and towns. And so Lionel Bernstein, Rusty Bernstein, was then replaced by Joe Slovo in the secretariat. And of course, Stanley Lolan was from the South African Colored People's Organization. That was the committee which was charged with the responsibility of coordinating this campaign of the Congress of the People. And in 1955, or for 2 days, 25th, 26th June 1955, delegates arrived, and this machinery had to receive delegates from far-flung places, organize accommodation for them, not in hotels. There were no hotels, but in families of the members of the African National Congress, so that they could wake up and go to Kliptown to the Congress of the People, which lasted 2 days. Now, in the same year, 1955, SACP was born, South African Congress of Trade Unions. Prior to SACP, there was the Trade and Labor Council, which was for white registered trade unions, and black people, even if you were recruited into a union, you were not registered, so you were not recognized, because black people, right from the Industrial Conciliation Act in the 1920s, so they define a black worker not as a worker, but they say anyone who carries a pass is not an employee. So you couldn't belong to a registered trade union because you carry a pass. So they define you out of the definition of an employee that way. So the Trades and Labor Council was that kind of federation. It disbanded itself in 1954, and then of course SACP was born. And SACP organized workers along industries. Of course, the unions were not registered because the law did not allow for them to be registered. That law applied up until 1973, when at first the government said black unions can only be registered in the homelands, not in the cities and urban areas. And then, of course, because workers were agitated and organized, employers said to them, no, please allow them. Because employers were confronted by, wildcat strikes, and they didn't know who to talk to and to bargain with. And so they allowed unions to be registered. That's when we see from 1973 the emergence of the new trade unions, which ended up under COSATU, CUSA as federations. And then, of course, the unity talks led to the birth of COSATU. So of the Congress Alliance component organizations in 1955, as I said, it's the African National Congress, it's the South African Indian Congress, South African Colored People's Organization, which later became the South African Colored People's Congress, and then it's the COD, Congress of Democrats, and COSATU, the SACP, South African Congress of Trade Unions, okay? These are the 5 component organizations which met from the 25th to the 26th of June 1955. And for the 2 days, those pieces of papers now collated under proper subheadings. By day 2, they were able to adopt the Freedom Charter. Just before, the police who were not invited arrived with Sten guns, and they surrounded Kliptown, and all the delegates were searched, and all scraps of paper were collected and so on, which led to the arrests in December of 1956, the following year. So, the Freedom Charter was adopted by the Congress of the People, but each component organization had to go and adopt the Freedom Charter in its own conference. So the African National Congress adopts the Freedom Charter in its own conference in March of 1956. Okay? And each one of the component organizations did likewise. So on the 5th of December, 1956, there's a blitz. Leaders are collected across the length and breadth of the country because they took their names, they took their, and they registered. They worked into the night on the 26th at Kliptown to take the names of each delegate. And once they had that data, they then decided, oh yeah, no, this is the Renkope, this. And they go for the Renkope, you see. So on the 5th of December, 140 leaders across the length and breadth of the country were arrested. Later, the number increased to 156. And what was the charge? Treason. Because the Freedom Charter was regarded as a treasonous document. Because as apartheid said separateness, the Freedom Charter said inclusiveness. And that was treason. So indeed, the Congress Alliance could not ask for a better platform to promote non-racialism, because for 4.5 years, these leaders who represented non-racialism were paraded by the state. Firstly, they appeared in Johannesburg, and then the case was transferred to Pretoria, the old synagogue. And they had to commute by bus each day. So they had ample time in the trip from Johannesburg to Pretoria and from Pretoria back to Johannesburg to discuss, debate, and get to know each other better. Yeah. And this non-racial leadership became popular because a campaign was then launched called the Release Our Leaders campaign. So the people are mobilized and they see their leaders there, that, they represent the entire demographics of South Africa. That's the Congress Alliance I'm talking about. Yeah. Now, as I said, the organizations of interest here are the ANC, the Communist Party, SACP and COSATU, and Congress of Democrats, as well as the Civic, organization. So the Communist Party of South Africa, CPSA. Now, you know, interestingly, CPSA was the acronym of the Church of the Province of South Africa. That's what the Anglican Church was called in those days here. The Church of the Province of South Africa, because we were a colony of Britain. So the CPSA meant the Communist Party of South Africa. And CPSA also stood for the Church of the Province of South Africa. So you could, you know, get away with using that acronym. Then, following the promulgation of the Suppression of Communism Act by the Nationalist Party government, the Communist Party convened its Central Committee in 1950. And there, at that Central Committee meeting, the General Secretary of the Communist Party, Moses Kotane, says to the Central Committee, as of now, we are disbanding. When you walk out of here, no one is a member of the Communist Party because the Communist Party does not exist. In anticipation that indeed this law will come for them. So if they disband themselves, they will take care of their assets, they will protect whoever was a member, because now they can't come to you and say you are a communist, because you are not. You don't belong to any communist party. So they disbanded. And Rusty Bernstein, who in his book called Memory Against Forgetting, says as they were walking out of that Central Committee meeting, because the word was just one, we are disbanding, we are no more, go home. And as they were leaving, he says, no, they thought, well, we are sure the leadership has a plan B. But there was no plan B to be spoken about. And of course, some of the Communist Party's members at the time who were playing militant said, no, this is cowardice. This is cowardice. We are not going anywhere. And they formed themselves, they called themselves Bafabegia, those who will die in their boots dancing. And they distinguished themselves by wearing red ties wherever they are. And they are... Not red socks. No, ties, yeah. And their slogan was that the rule of the road is always to keep left, wherever you are. So if you're sitting in a round table like this, you must always ensure that I don't know how you're going to sit to the left. Yeah. That's why you got round tables. So the rule of the road is always to keep left. Unknown to them was that they were displaying their ill discipline as members of the party. So, of course, remember Moses Kotane went to the party school in 1931 up to 1933. So we're talking now 1950. It's a lot of experience that is accumulated. So he's applying theory. Because you see, Bo Omrei Mhlaba used to tell us that you are not Marxists. You are students of Marxism-Leninism. You become Marxist only when you use the theory to solve problems of society. Until you reach that level, you are a student of Marxism. You are not a Marxist. So anybody who says to you, I'm a Marxist, you must ask them, what societal problems have they solved? You see. So anyway, there was no plan B. But this leadership then reorganizes. And in 1953, they re-established the party as the South African Communist Party. So the CPSA morphs into SACP, okay? And so by the time the ANC and the COD are banned in 1960, because of the component organizations of the Congress Alliance, only the ANC and the COD were banned. The others were not banned, they remained legal. What the government did was to target their leaders, prominent leaders, that's all. But they remained as legal formations. And so, when the ANC gets banned, and Mandela says, there comes a time in the life of every nation when the choice is either to surrender or to fight. And he says, we are fighting. So once that choice is made that we are going to fight, then of course they go underground as well, because now the regime is after them. And underground they find the South African Communist Party, which has now accumulated 7 years of experience of operating underground. And that's where in Afrikaans it's called toenadering. Toenadering. Yes. Yes. That's when that happens. The toenadering happens there. Underground. Yes. Yeah. So anyway, they begin to work together. And a joint project is the establishment of MK, because as Mandela raises this issue, he says, no, it is futile and useless to continue with peaceful demonstrations against a brutal system. The person who opposes him in the meetings of the ANC is Moses Kotane, who happens to be the General Secretary of the Communist Party. At that time, the Communist Party, the South African Communist Party had taken a decision to form combat units. They'd taken that decision. But the General Secretary of the party, when he sits in the meeting of the ANC, using his experience and understanding, that if the ANC deviates from its policy of non-violence, all these ANC members would be exposed. So Moses Kotane's understanding is that it can't happen this way. And he opposes Madiba's proposals. Fortunately, Chief Albert Lutuli is said to have trusted Moses Kotane with his life. He would not take any major decisions without first hearing what Moses Kotane's views are. You see. So Madiba, is frustrated. And then in the next meeting, Moses Kotane suggests that it's okay this can be an ANC project. It can be. But if you set up an independent organization there, which would be, combative, it's okay. We give you the green light to do that. But it can be ANC policy. Because it's protecting these members of the ANC who did not sign up for a violent organization. You see, that's how MK is conceptualized. So by then, the Communist Party has already identified 6 of its members. And in 53, when Yusuf Dadoo was in China, it made arrangements with Mao Zedong that they will send people to go and train militarily in China. Now, the ANC gives Mandela the green light to establish an independent organization. And then, of course, they inform him that, no, you can work with Joe Slovo. So the first person that Mandela recruits is Andrew Mlange for this unit. Now, Andrew Mlange is already being identified as part of the 6. Yeah. So that's how MK is formed as an organization that's going to embark on armed struggle. And unlike now, MK doesn't have the Congress Alliance components. It is MK, it's an independent organization. It's formed outside of the ANC and other organizations. But it can recruit from all of them. You understand, comrades, that transition? So, the 6 comrades who were sent to China to train, it's Andrew Mlangeni, it's Joe Gabi, it's Raymond Mhlaba, it's Wilton Mkwai, it's Stephen Naidu, it's Patrick Mtembu. So they go and train in China. They are divided into 2 groups. Some go to the south, others go to the north. And they receive this training. Now, Madiba becomes the commander-in-chief of MK, which embarks on sabotage, acts of sabotage, 1961, when it announces its existence. When MK announced its existence, they sabotage pylons and rail lines, administration offices, and so on. And the first casualty at Dube Township at the administration office was Petras Moleife, because they are trained by Jack Hodgson. Jack Hodgson is in the party, but is a returned soldier. He was in the Second World War, so he knows something about explosives. So if you listen to those old comrades on their elementary teething problems internally, you'd be shocked. Yeah, because one comrade, Garth Strachen, writes, he has a book, he wrote a book called Marcus Cave, and he says, anyone who studied chemistry or whatever, or, like Dennis Goldberg, who was an engineer. So an engineer knows how to build and how to demolish. So they were very important. But Garth Strachen says they were trying to produce gunpowder. So they were cooking something in the kitchen. on a hot plate. Yeah. And he says this thing exploded. And his two comrades that were with him are all dark-faced. He could only see their teeth to know that they are still alive. And he says, because they were doing this experiment in a kitchen, so he says the bottle of marmalade jam is stuck on the ceiling. Yeah. That's elementary mistakes, because they had to try and do these things themselves, you see. So for sabotage purposes, so they to train people, these MK combatants, in how to handle explosives. And so mistakes happened in certain instances. But all in all, the announcement through sabotage was very successful. And they issued a manifesto. They issued a manifesto as well of MK. It's an independent organization. Jack Hodgson trained some of them in Soweto. So there's a building in Soweto which has a medical practitioner and Radishubana. Radishubana is a herbalist. But they are in the same building. So the herbalist operates from upstairs, and the medical practitioner surgery is downstairs. So these combatants go there, and no one is clear whether they're going into for consultation with the doctor or consultation with the doctor upstairs. And the doctor upstairs there has Jack Hodgson there. So incendiaries. So if you get what they call permanganate of potash, manyazine, and you pour glycerine on it, it flames. Yeah. So it's called an incendiary. It's also used as a timing device. Yes, in the sense that if you got it at the bottom of the bottle, and you pour sand, and you drop through a pipette glycerine, and you time how long it takes for the glycerine to filter down the sand. And when it gets there, it ignites, so you have a Molotov. So these are primitive weapons that they could use. And they go there, so Jack Hodgson trains them, and so one of the first people to be arrested, for attempted sabotage was Ben Turok, and he was Professor Ben Turok, and he was sentenced because he was going to place some explosives at the Johannesburg post office. And he was arrested, and he was sentenced to 3 years imprisonment before going to exile. I'm just saying that, so MK becomes this independent project of competence, and it recruits, and of course, some recruits must go and train abroad. And the chief reps of the ANC in Tanzania, in Dar es Salaam, knows that there is Indian Congress, Colored People's Congress, ANC, SACP. And now these ones come from all national groups, these MK combatants, the recruits. And the chief reps had to adapt and adjust very quickly to understand that now these are conditions of exile. The whole Group Areas Act doesn't apply there. You see, so even the component organizations of the Congress Alliance outside South Africa agreed that now they are all ANC. and that the ANC is leader of the struggle. So they merge. Even though the ANC constitution did not allow for that, but they become one organization. So they create new structures outside, to coordinate together, because it doesn't make sense to go its separate ways. So it's the SACP is underground. So the SACP doesn't surface. No. So in the camps, when these combatants go and train in Europe, and they come back from China, from Soviet Union, GDR, and now they are in the camps, they say Moses Kotane addresses them, and he says, now you are trained militarily. Now we must send you back for political education, because you are revolutionaries with arms, waging a political struggle. So the military is subordinated to the political authority. So the political is preeminent over the military. Okay? And some, because you see, in any organization there are always, people who behave in a manner which reflects limited understanding of mass organizations. I remember when I was still SG, so I go to the Northwest province, and some comrades of the ANC, I'm going to an ANC meeting in the Northwest. And these comrades pull me aside and they say, SG, whenever we are in meetings and we're debating something, these comrades say, Tina Singamabomvana, we've decided to do it this way. So, Rona, when are we going to have our own caucus as ANC pure? Yeah. So I asked them, I say, no. So you want to caucus for an ANC meeting? Your meeting? And they say, yeah, no, because you see, these comrades from the party always tell us what they've already decided. I say, in an ANC meeting, and they say, yes. I say, no. You see, you can't caucus for an ANC meeting, your meeting, and you want to go to your meeting as ANC pure. I say, no, it can't happen. It can't happen. So they say, what should we do? I say, no. These comrades, none of them has been sent by the Communist Party to your meeting. They are there as ANC members. So once they do that, you must, plead with them that no, if we want the view of the Communist Party, we are going to write to the Communist Party. We will have a bilateral meeting with the Communist Party. Here we are ANC. You don't need ANC pure. But that happens in an organization. So even in the camps, there were those who wanted it, but particularly during the Sino-Soviet disputes. Those are disputes between communist parties. Now these are combatants of MK. That issue does not relate to them. They can't go into that issue and allow that issue to divide them. But those kinds of tensions were arising, and so a pamphlet had to be crafted and circulated, which pamphlet addressed the the role of party members in mass organizations. Yeah. To clarify that. Because now, you know, at the Lobatse in 1962, the leadership of the ANC convened a conference in Lobatse in Botswana. Walter Sisulu was there, Gavin Mbeki was chairing the meeting, Moses Kotane was there, OR was there, but OR was already in exile. Dan Klume was there, and delegates from inside the country. And it is at that conference where they then decided that MK is actually an ANC project. That MK is under the ANC officially. Yeah. So, with this, you know, evolution, the party members and leaders in the ANC never identified themselves as a fraction of the party. They were loyal members of the ANC throughout. To give you a sense, comrades, at the end of the Morogoro conference, the National Executive Committee was reduced to 10. Yeah. Now, the NEC today is what, comrade Zamani? 120. Yeah, no, I mean, including the ex officio. 118 or 20. Well, you have 4 leagues now. 120, yeah. So the NEC at the Morogoro conference was reduced to 10. Only 10 members were elected onto the National Executive Committee. And 9 out of that 10 were communists. But as I said, were ANC, loyal to the ANC. And these comrades were so experienced that I was told that, because you see, those days you could not join the Communist Party. You couldn't just walk. Earlier on, in the 40s, you could walk into an office. Elias Mtswaledi used to tell me that how easy it was to join the Communist Party. And so he says he was listening to a councillor outside the Joburg City Hall, a white councillor who happened to be Hilda Wards. And he says, as he listened, this councillor understood conditions of the hostel. He was a migrant living at a JP hostel. And so he says to his colleague, who happened to be Fleck Bushielo, he says to him, look, man, you know, I want to register now for long-distance correspondence because I want to speak like that lady, yeah, you know, in public speaking. And he says, this comrade said to him, no, don't waste your money. Come with me. And he takes him, he follows him, and this comrade, Fleck Bushielo, is a member of the Communist Party. So he takes him to a Communist Party office, and he says there's a desk there and someone behind the desk. And this comrade says to him, give this man a shilling. So he pops out the shilling, and he gets a membership card of the Communist Party. And he says that's how he joined the Communist Party. Yeah, it wasn't very difficult. But later, you had to be recommended by 3 members of the party for you to be accepted, to be a member of the party. So you couldn't just walk into it. So I'm told that Moses Kotane, who was then serving as the Treasurer General of the ANC, had a one-on-one with Oliver Tambo. And he says to Oliver Tambo, you are our president. And the work you are doing is far more important than anything else. And so, you know, I'm also the General Secretary of the Communist Party. So if anyone recruits you and recommends you to the Communist Party, I want to tell you that that will be rejected. Because we don't want to tell lies that you are not a communist when you are a communist. And the work you are doing as our president is far more important than being a member of the party. That's how matured these comrades were. So, that gives us the context, comrades. The history gives us the context of where this alliance comes from. Now, as struggle was progressing, internally, as I said, we then end up with COSATU as a powerful federation of workers, aligned to the Freedom Charter. It is several of the affiliates that adopted the Freedom Charter as its program. And so they become a natural ally of the ANC. Now, the ANC leadership went to Vietnam. And when the delegation came back from Vietnam, because of the terrain in South Africa, the Vietnamese say, no, you can't wage conventional, traditional guerrilla warfare in South Africa. So that's how the ANC leadership then adopted the 4 pillars of struggle. That there will be underground structures which link up with above board mass organizations and armed combat and armed propaganda, as well as international isolation of South Africa and international solidarity, the anti-apartheid movement. So these 4 pillars, the struggle was now to be waged under those 4 pillars, following the visit to Vietnam by the leadership. And so COSATU becomes one of the mass organizations, which, these pillars are interdependent, and they feed on each other and they influence each other. So the underground also feeds into the mass organizations. And gradually, because SACP in exile, remember SACP was a federation. Now a federation does not recruit individual members. Its members are affiliated trade unions. So in exile, they could, go to the ILO and so on and make representations. And gradually, they facilitated meetings with the leadership of COSATU and agreed that COSATU is now the worker component in the labor sector. And that's how COSATU becomes part of the tripartite alliance. You see, that's how the tripartite alliance emerges, of the ANC, the SACP, and COSATU, because the common program of the Freedom Charter is common to all 3. Okay? So, how did we come here now? This was history. I was giving you the history. Now, we have the ANC. There's no other ANC other than yourselves. There's no other ANC in the deep freezer of history elsewhere that we can pull out and defrost. The ANC is what exists now. There's no other. And then, of course, the SACP is, as it exists today, there's no other, we can't pull out the CPSA from the deep freezer of history and replace the SACP. No. That's what we have, and that's who we are, and that's who we must relate to. So the crisis, comrades, affects all components of this alliance. Now, I was once part of a community, comrades, where we were free. And so we're a community of people who were illiterate and some who were university professors and professionals. And so there were literacy classes, those who were illiterate. So if you teach an adult who is illiterate, the first thing you teach that person is how to hold a pen. And once they know how to hold a pen, you teach them how to draw straight lines, horizontal lines, and vertical lines. And the third step is to teach them how to draw circles and semicircles. If they master that, these 4 steps, that person is literate. Yeah. Because all alphabets and numbers are a combination of a straight line and a circle or a semicircle. Yeah. So, in that community, we start at that level. And comrades become literate. So, these facilitated classes, one of the and we had, as I said, people who held master's qualifications in philosophy. So one of them, would deliver a talk on why society does not need organizations in one session. And the next session says why society cannot exist without organizations. And when comrades say, hey, you are damaging them because you're teaching them this thing and that thing. And he says, no, I'm teaching them contradictions. Yeah, he explains, a philosopher. He says, no, I'm teaching them contradictions. Yeah. So anyway, the same comrade facilitated a session on the universe. And his presentation is that the universe is made of a constellation of stars, including the Earth itself is part of those stars. And he says these stars, the sun does not move. These stars rotate around the sun. And the Earth, as it rotates around the sun, it also revolves around its own axle. So the two motions at once. And he says the rotation around the sun gives you seasons of the year. And the revolution around its axle gives you day and night. Yeah. So he explains this to these comrades. Some of them are peasants, you see. So after this session, they are now evaluating this session. They are doing their own assessment of how this session went. And one of them says, man, we trusted this comrade, but he lies with a straight face like this. Huh? How is this possible? I I mean, he expects us to disbelieve the very evidence of our eyes. Even here, we see the sun rise, and there it goes, and it sets. What is this comrade talking about? And some, come from the same village, and the one says, nalento ayichachisayo revolution. There's never been a day where we woke up, we found umzwoko kwethu jonge golfo. It is forever facing where it is facing. So, ayikho yonke lento. And their conclusion is that they will not attend his sessions ever again. And when they share that conclusion with other comrades, the comrades then explain that, no, comrades, you are part of this revolution. You can't stand outside of it. You are part of this rotation. You can't stand outside of it and observe this movement because you are part of the movement. You see? So they say, oh, no. It makes sense. And then they go back to the sessions conducted by these comrades. So this anecdote, comrades, means that the alliance component organizations cannot understand and demand that the alliance must change without understanding that they themselves must change. Because they are part of this movement. They are part of this rotation and the revolution. That is why what we must understand is that this alliance is a political alliance. That's why in the ANC constitution, there's no mention of the alliance other than in Rule 25, which explains what constitutes an offense. It says it is an offense for any member of the ANC to work with or for any other political organization other than one in alliance with the ANC. That's the only rule that mentions the alliance. There's no other. So you can't say, no, we are structured this way or that way, you see. Because it's not a contractual alliance. It's a political alliance born of the challenges and circumstances of the time, as this history gives us that context. And so that's why if you have a conference resolution, comrades, and the SACP has a conference resolution that it must contest elections on its own, okay? If you have a resolution of conference like that, the next step is how are we going to implement or give effect to this resolution? What would be the implications or consequences of our implementation? That's the next step. Then you work out what the implications are. And part of the implications are that, what do you do with dual membership? Are you asking these members to choose? Or what are you saying? You see? So, in a way, my own understanding is that the SACP has not dealt with step 2. It has not dealt with step 2, which answers the question of what are the potential consequences or implications of this decision when we implement it. And to resolve that, because they've not dealt with step 2, to resolve that step 2, the SACP says we are contesting elections as the party. However, we remain part of the alliance. And they say there's no contradiction there. Okay? Because they've skipped step 2 in how you implement any resolution. They've not addressed step 2. But because you see, to resolve complex problems, history teaches us that human beings, you see, walked about, and at a certain time the heavens open up and water comes down. And they have no explanation as to how that happens. No scientific understanding of how that happens. And because there's no scientific understanding of what causes that to happen, however, they would go mad if they have no explanation to themselves, which makes sense, you see. So the explanation to that is that no, these are the workings of a superior being. Yeah, because you have no science to explain what causes rain at a certain time. But you need an explanation which would allow you to remain normal and insane. Not insane, but sane. Yeah, to remain sane. Yeah, otherwise you go mad. I mean, you're walking around and the next thing, wow, you are wet. What is this thing now? Eh? Who is opening up the taps there? The shower when you haven't asked, for a shower. You see, so you have to say there is a force beyond my understanding which is in charge and responsible for this happening. And that keeps you a sane person. Yeah, you can go on with your life. Yeah, normally. So, as I said, there's a conference resolution. The implementation calls for step 1 to deal with the potential consequences and act accordingly. That step 1 has not been followed. And so the explanation which allows this thing to be normal is that, yes, the party will contest elections as the party, but it remains in the alliance. Yeah. So how should the ANC respond to that? How should the ANC itself respond to that? And they do say, the party does say it met with COSATU, and COSATU feels left out, and they will increase the frequency of the meetings with COSATU. They've met with the ANC, and the ANC has admitted to certain things, and they will continue to engage with the ANC because they remain part of the alliance. So how should the ANC as an independent component organization respond to that? You see, as the ANC now. So the ANC at all times seeks to unite those who are on the side of the revolution at all times. But the party is bitter. The party says the ANC meets with these parties and crafts memorandum of understanding to our exclusion as the party. We are excluded from that. And then we see the ANC in a coalition with the DA. You see. So the ANC has to prepare superior argument and explanation as to why this current context dictates that the ANC respond in a particular way. The ANC can't say, well, mabaphume bahambe. It can't say that. Because you have dual membership. You have members who are ANC members and party members. The party has not addressed that step. Is the ANC to copy the wrongdoing of the party? No. Correctly speaking, you must never copy wrong things. It doesn't matter who does it, who does them. Yeah. If that is wrong, don't copy it. Yeah. So, in short, comrades, what I'm really saying is that, of course, Sanco, as you know, in many, many areas, it has two manifestations. And it's the ANC that has, over the years, tried to facilitate that Sanco should be united. It must not have, two Sancos, three Sancos, and so on. It is the ANC which bears that responsibility. COSATU is faced by the fact that the federation now is a federation of public service unions, okay, whose employer is government. And they rely on class analysis, which then says, this government is a bourgeois government. Lema bourgeois ban. Yeah. Kwakho omunye comrade Edgar Ngoyi from Stataram in the Eastern Cape. He's no more, may his soul rest in peace. So Edgar Ngoyi, in all discussions and debates, when you start a debate, he's the first one to raise his hand, and all he wants to know is, this issue that we are debating, how does it address the struggle of working people? Yeah. Ayibuze ngesixhosa uba lo mba usingawo udibana njani nedabi labasebenzi? And if you explain that, then it's okay. Yeah, we can carry on with the discussions. But until you help him with an answer to that question, no, we can't proceed. So in one of the State of the Nations, I meet him outside Parliament. He is a guest, he's invited by Parliament. And I ask him what he's doing, and he says, hey, Mfundi, ndiqasha abasebenzi abane banje andiba exploit uyiya. Yeah, he says no, because he's an employer. You see. So what I'm saying is that COSATU is now a federation of mainly public service unions. The industrial unions are smaller in COSATU now. A consequence of that is that the employer that COSATU must relate to is the government. Yes, who's in the alliance. Yeah. Now, you see, if you are a leading organization as the ANC, you must grapple with these questions. How are you going to provide leadership in this context now, where you are in alliance and this federation are your employees? How are you going to deal with that? To make sense politically. So when we say this alliance is in crisis, is at a crossroads. It is correct. It's a correct dissertation. And the answer to where we come from is simple because it's a historical context. But where we are headed, what is the next step? What is the next step? And in politics, victory always goes to those with the clearest understanding of what the next step is. Yeah. Kwa wena nje uyi-individual, xa uphuma endlini, you know your destination already. Awuphumi nje uzule ubone ukuthi uzawuphelela phi. Doesn't happen that way. Eh? No. You must, because the journey begins at the end. So when you leave, you already know where you are heading to. Yeah. So this is the question now. What do we do? This is the question. Now I want to leave you with the words of, as I conclude, of Comrade Kgalema Motlanthe. In one of his poems, it's a dedication. It's a poem in his anthology called If I Could Sing. If I Could Sing. Now, Professor Kgalema Motlanthe says the following. And to the memory of Baba Mabida, Ntate Mashiru, Tata OR, Comrade Shope, and Chris Hani, may your eye condemn us till the end of time if we ever betray our mission. That's what he says, full stop. Yeah. So I want to leave you with those words here. Thank you, comrades.
Amandla, let's give Umkholowa a Northern Cape round of applause. Thank you very much, Comrade Kgalema. It's roughly an hour, 30 minutes, but it was like 10 minutes. Okay. So, comrades, we are going to dive into the next session, which is discussions. But we've got a way we are going to structure these discussions. Each table, that's the reason we've got round tables here. You'll have to identify 3 critical issues that Comrade Kgalema raised that we should not forget. 3 that we should not forget. Is that correct, comrades? I don't know whether you understand this. 3 things that were raised that we should not forget. Minimum 3. You can go beyond 3. That we should not forget. And each table will appoint a captain now that will report on behalf of the table. Let's quickly get to this table. Who's your captain here? There's no voting. The first name that is raised becomes the captain. Oh, here it's Donnie. Who's the captain there? The first name that is raised. Comrades. Khotso. Yeah, we've got Comrade Khotso. It's Tony. Khotso, we should be gender sensitive, comrades. Here, Masco here. That table? Never. Are we taking down the names of the captains? Comrade, you? It's Tony, Khotso. Here it's Masco. And then we've got Neva. That table? Monica. Onika. Onika in this table? In this table? Tika box. Oh, okay. I thought the prof was. I thought the prof was talk there, sitting next to. All right, here in this table. In this table, Monakali here. And then in this table, Topsy. Okay, in that table, Mildred. Okay, that other table, who is it? Lerato. Oh, Rato. Okay, that other table, Tsepo. Yeah. So we'll get the officials to join. You choose any table you want. And to join one of the tables. Can we get the officials to move and the NEC deployee to join any one of the tables? Can we give the tables 25 minutes? So number one, you'll just identify at least 3 things, which Mkulua said in his conversation with us that we must not forget. At least 3. And then after we've identified those 3 things which we should not forget, and then we'll open up the floor for discussions. Then comrade individually can engage with the issues that were raised. So we've got captains at least for each and every desk. Amandla, comrades, it's time for feedback now. So we'll go to any table that is ready. Ticker box, you are ready? You are ready? All right, can we get the roving mic to ticker box?
No, thank you very much, Chair.
Let's just wait for Mkuluwa to quickly finish here. All right. Ticker box, we are getting feedback soon, Kulu. All right. Can we get somebody to quickly give that group of ticker box a name? What, if you look at those comrades, what the name that you can give them?
What?
Yeah, what's the name of the group? The what? The what? Oh, the name of the group is Tix. MK box. MK. Konto wesizwe. All right. They say tick box or MK box, I don't know, but anyway.
Thank you very much, Chair. On behalf of the group, let want to welcome.
Yeah, you can come to the front if that thing is giving you trouble.
No, thank you very much, Chair. On behalf of the group, we want to welcome the insightful political lecture which has been given by Mkuluwa. I must confess it's for the first time. You said it's more than 6 times that you attended. It's induction. It's for the first time I had an interaction like this with Utatu Mkuluwa. And I think at times we take the advantage that we know about the ANC. And the second issue that we took out of this lecture is that the revolution is not stagnant. Out of what Tatum Mkuluwa presented, the law of motion, it simply emphasized that the revolution is not a stagnant. Let me come to the issue, Chair. I think the question that we have asked ourselves is, what made us to be where we are as the Alliance? And all of us would know that is the issue of the genuine. It's where actually one of the problems that contributed to the current state of that worsened problems within the alliance. There has been problems, but what worsened the problems is the issue of the GNU. Now, one of the teachings that we got from this political lecture is the issue of how leadership deals with contradictions. Mkhulwa makes a reflection of the times of Moses Kotane, the meeting that was held in Botswana, that there were contradictions, but what becomes important is how to manage those contradictions. So it means where we are, it's not a new thing in the organization. In fact, the crisis that we are sitting with, it's a crisis within leadership. Leadership that is looking inward. There is a crisis that we are sitting with within the alliance. Leadership that cannot rise above their own egos. This is a crisis that we sit with within the alliance. We don't have a leader that says that, but yeah, I'm wrong. All of them are right. All of them are right. But secondly, what the lecture also reflects on, that is the ANC that has been always the leader within the alliance. What is worsening the current situation is the ANC that fails to provide leadership. Rather, what they are doing, they are just multiplying the wrong that the party is doing. Issues of Mabambe, you must choose which side are you. There is a lot that I wanted to say, but thank you, Chair. But the issue is the leadership crisis. Thank you, Chair.
All right. Let's go. Comrades, we should just be conscious of time. Just highlight those at least 3 things. Ne? Yeah. So you get tempted to give another political lecture now. Yeah. You want to give a second political lecture. I see Matika is tempted. Leadership, that is. All right. Let's just identify those 3 things.
Thank you, Chair. I think it was mentioned that my name is Neville Kadiete. I'm representing the veterans. So I'm sitting with the veterans there, and we are accompanied by some of our PEC members with us there. Let me just take this opportunity to say what a wonderful and great insight we got today. We needed this always, because the confusion and the uncertainty that we have experienced as members of the African National Congress and the Alliance is that we don't know where we are going to. And I think what Mkhulwa was saying is really something that we have to take to heart. The first thing that we as a group have said we could take out of this, Mkhulwa was saying that we must never forget that the SACP has taken a decision and a position to file divorce papers against the African National Congress. And then the second thing that we also have to take into regard is Rule 25. You see, Mkulu was saying that when we go through the constitution of the ANC, nowhere does it mention the alliance. But in Rule 25, there is that clause that actually says that as a member of the ANC, if you do work for another party, it's misconduct, except for a party which is part of the alliance. So the SACP is part of the alliance. And we see the difficulty that this decision that was taken at an SACP conference has given the difficulty that it gives members who've got dual membership. It is because, on the one hand, African National Congress has no way of saying to the SACP, you could not have taken that resolution, that you can stand for elections on your own. Mkulu was saying that there's nothing wrong with that. If they want to do that, that is fine. But then they are leaving their own members in a difficult position, because these members now, that resolution, they have not taken the second part, which says how do they move from there. You see, which is very difficult for members who got a dual citizenship, because, sorry, not dual citizenship, but dual membership. That is one of the challenges. And I think the biggest problem is the consequences that we have not looked at as members of the SACP when we went to that conference and we took a decision to stand on our own. Because there must be direction that comes from conference, that as a member who's got dual dual membership, this is the way to go. I thank you.
Let me just explain the way forward. So what will happen is at 1:55, we are going to break for lunch, Sek, isn't it? And then Kulua will go on a virtual meeting. And then we'll reconvene again at 2. Is that all right, comrades? Yeah, so let's take as many as we can now. And then 1:55, we break for lunch. And then we reconvene at 2 again. So those groups, those captains, who won't have time to report now, you'll report after lunch. Can we then have Utsubi?
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, I'm standing here on behalf of the Universe Group.
The Universe?
The Universe, yes. That's the name of the group. On behalf of the Universe, I first want to voice our appreciation for the very insightful presentation. It was really worth it to be here. Yeah. The value that we got out of it, we are not taking it for granted. So we want to say thank you very much. Chair, we have resolved to reflect on 3 issues. We don't want to reinvent the wheel here. The presentation was already made. The first issue that we picked up that's important for us is the issue that states that for us as the movement to address the current challenges of the alliance, we must appreciate the historical context, where the alliance is coming from, how it was conceptualized, the sacrifices that was made so that we can have this alliance. So that's the first point that we say is a very important point. The second issue that is important for us is the issue of the law of motion. As leaders, we must know that there were people before us, we are now there, and there will be people after us. But what is important is the legacy that leadership is leaving behind. It's very important as leaders that we must make an impact to make sure that the movement becomes a better movement under our leadership. And then the last issue that we want to reflect on is the issue of renewal. We are saying that the ANC cannot renew whilst the other component parts of the alliance does not renew. If we want to change the alliance, the component parts of the alliance must also change and must be renewed. An example is the fact that COSATU was an industrial-dominated union. Today it's a public sector-dominated union. Has COSATU changed? Has COSATU adapted? Because now they must interact predominantly with government, which is in the alliance. So those are the three issues that we reflected on, Chair. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Moscow?
Thank you, Chair. As I welcome the presentation, this insightful presentation, I think, Chair, we took the same route as well with regards to the law of motion. But the issue I want to raise about the law of motion, it should help us to renew the organization. It will help us if we recognize as leaders that we should not stay there forever and be able to move on and ensure that we leave the organization intact. And the other issue that, Chair, is about 4 Congress Alliance. And that 4 Congress Alliance displaced the issue of non-racial, where is the Indian, colored, and workers, and so all of them came together. And as a result, that they developed a pillars of implementation. Then each component was given a responsibility. For example, of the workers, were given a campaign to ensure that the campaigns that the component that is to recruit the workers and mobilize the workers is being implemented in that. But I want to bring it later, which will, as a group, want to request that, and as Mkhulu is going to come and respond, we are grappling with the issue of the Congress Alliance. We know that at some point, I think in 1950, when they moved out from the Congress, the Indian Congress, when they moved out, the time then also the PAC went left and then be able to say. So those are the things that since then, it seems if they have not yet come back to this 4 Congress Alliance, which was formed by then. Hence now currently we are still having the challenge of the PA, and then now it's eating the ANC inside. And we're dealing with the issues of the colored. Because it seems as if we are not dealing with the issues of the colors as the ANC, as a Congress movement ourselves. Because of even from nationally, we can see the issues of the colors in the NEC level is not really being addressed. So those are those things that as we are grappling and as we move forward, help us also to be able to address the issues of the colors within our movement and moving forward. And instead we're saying, let us not copy the wrong things. Like the party did not manage to follow their steps to implement their own resolution by jumping straight towards implementing, but not unpacking what you want to achieve. Because if they have managed to unpack, follow the steps, they could have realized before they implement it, but this resolution is going to break alliance. Let's go back and rethink and be able to see how we're going to implement it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you can come. All right. So it's our last group before lunch, and then we should then converge here at 2 to get the presentations from other groups, and we'll give Mkhulu an opportunity to make a brief reflection, and then thereafter we'll act. But even before we give Mkhulu, we'll ask comrades to make their individual reflections. Is that okay? All right.
Thank you, Chair. Without wasting any time, I'm representing the Green Mambas, the women's, the table over there.
So it's not the Green Mambas?
Yes,
all right.
The Green Mambas. Firstly, let me welcome the presentation from the former Deputy President. Our first one, Chair, we only have 3 also, we don't want to waste time, is the formation of the ANC in general. We know that it includes 4 structures, which is the ANC, the South Indian Organization, the African Colored People, the Congress of Democrats. For us, it denounces the current narrative that the ANC is only for blacks. And for me alone, I think, Chair, the Northern Cape as a whole, for me, it stands for, it represents actually the ANC, because the Northern Cape has colors, it has all nations that you can think about. So for me, the Northern Cape, it represents the ANC. And the second one is the law of motions. That's the second one. That one says the ANC changes itself and nothing is permanent. And then the second one is when you are elected in a position, when you are elected in a position, you are also not permanent. The third one is the exclusion of the alliances. Exclusion of the alliance. That one says when you have dual membership of the party and the ANC, you are elected and your interest must be the ANC, period. Thank you very much.
All right. I think, comrades, it's great to break after the green numbers. And I'm certain that we'll really enjoy our lunch after the green members have spoken. So let's reconvene at 1:55 so that we can start exactly at 2 o'clock. So thank you very much, comrades. And SAC, where is lunch here? I don't know. It's just around the corner. Yeah, we can live through this door. Lunch is just around the corner. Thanks.